All right. I'd like to call this special meeting of the East Central Independent School District Board of Trustees to order. Let the record show we have a quorum. Moving on to our prayer and the pledge. Mr. Toscano, please.
Ms. Coles.
Dear Heavenly Father, we thank you for this day and for the people gathered here together. We ask your blessings as we begin this new school year, Lord, and that you will open our eyes to the new challenges and exciting opportunities this year brings. Give us insight to see what is and give us vision of all the possibilities that can be. Use us as your instruments to educate, inspire, equip, and empower those who come to us. We pray that you will lead us so that we may lead others in the right direction. We ask these things in your name. Amen.
Amen.
Please stand for the pledge.
Allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Honor.
Honor the Texas flag. I pledge allegiance to thee, Texas, one state, under God, one and indivisible.
Thank you, ma'am. All right, agenda item 3 is a public hearing to discuss proposed budget and tax rate. This time, we'd like to offer the opportunity for anyone who wishes to speak about the budget for this next year to please come forward and let us know what your feelings are. Since we have no one, we will move on to item 4A, 2016-2017 amended budget and information.
Sir, Mr. President, trustees, I'd like to call our CFO, Judy Burns, up to the podium at this time to present the board with our closeout of our 2016-2017 budget.
Thank y'all. The first one we're going to look at is the amended budget for 16-17, and it's the closeout of everything that's happened for this school year, this fiscal year. This is not audit entries. This is not as of the audit, but it's as of what our budget looks like at the end of the fiscal year, which is today. Basically, you'll be approving page 1 of the combined statement in revenues and expenditures for our amended budget. The general fund, the revenue was over 83 million for the general fund, and the expenditures was over 86 million, which means that our expenditures are over on paper by $3,910,000 just for the general fund. And most of that has been because of the budget amendments that we've done to y'all for the construction projects. There's no increase in any other line item except to clean it up, no increase that we had to take from fund balance on any other function line item. It's just been all function 81. The special revenue for child nutrition, their final numbers for revenue is over 5 million. Their expenditures are over 6 million, and they show that they're going to have a deficit of $672,000, which is not going to happen. Their expenditures are not near $6,489,000. Our debt service is $9 million for the revenue, and the expenditures are over $9 million for expenditures. And our construction fund, this is a little deceiving on paper because we have to book the money that we got from the sale of bonds, and we can only do it one time, and it's done this year. So you'll see that we have $43,623,870 that we're booking as revenue because of the sale of bond and because of interest. And our expenditures that we think will be till the end of August is only $21,223,000. So it shows that we're going to carry over $22 million. Again, that's because of us having to book the revenue for the sale of the bonds. So totally, our total revenue that we're asking y'all to approve is $141,728,446,000, and our expenditures is $123,769,269. And all of this is on page 1 of the amended budget that you have the paper copy in front of you. I'll be glad to go over each individual page if you'd like, or if you just want to ask some questions. But I do want to show y'all on page 2, as you can see from the amended budget, again, the state sources are going down, your local is going up, and so again, your taxpayers are paying for a lot of this budget. Do y'all have any questions y'all would like to ask me on this budget amendment?
Any questions? Looks like we're okay.
Okay. Mr. President, I recommend board approval of the 2016-2017 amended budget and information as presented.
We have a recommendation by the superintendent to accept the amended budget as presented. Chair will entertain a motion.
So moved.
We have a motion by Mr. Feller. Is there a second? We have a second by my coach. Sorry, James, Mr. Mulkey. All right. Any questions? All in favor? Aye. All opposed? Motion carries.
Okay, the second item that I'm bringing to you is the adoption of our 17-18 proposed budget. And you'll be approving again on page 1 the combined statement of revenue and expenditures for the proposed budget for 17 and 18. The general fund at this time that we're presenting to you is a balanced budget. It's $84,730,622, and that is what our revenue is going to be, and that is what our expenditures are going to be. Our special revenue is going to be child nutrition revenue of $6,140,300, and our expenditures will be $6,658,510, where they will be going into fund balance by $518,210. And I want to bring your attention to the fact that they have to do that. They, by law, cannot have over 3 months in reserve, or they get dinged by the government. And so Nancy and her staff are trying to spend that down by doing special projects, buying additional better quality food or whatever to stay in compliance with what she has to do with the federal government. So that's the reason why it's going to go into fund balance. Debt service, the revenue is $11,449,317, and the expenditures are $11,606,105. On paper, it looks like we're going to go into fund balance for $156,788, but by the end of next year, we won't be going into fund balance for that. We are no longer getting IFA or EDA money. What we are getting is additional state aid for homestead exemptions of $226,567. So that helps a little bit, and it kept us from having to raise by a penny. And then we go to construction fund, where we feel like the interest will be about $540,000. We're very excited. We're getting a little over 1% interest on our money, which is better than what we used to get, 0.10, 0.15. And our expenditures, we project that we'll be spending out $60 million. And so that shows that we'll be in a deficit of $59 million, but again, we won't be, because we have that fund balance of the bond sales from last year and this year. So our total revenue is going to be $102,860 and $860,239, and our expenditures are $162,995,237. So that is what y'all will be approving tonight. All the information is almost the same that I give for the amended budget. Again, I will bring up to y'all that on page 2 on the general operating, we are now at state giving 50, the district giving 50%. So it's half and half. And we're looking at where our projected daily attendance, we're hoping for 9,612. And so if y'all have any questions on any of the pages, and at this time, we're looking that the fund balance, and I should have brought this up for the current fund balance, very conservatively, we're thinking that our fund balance will be 27 million at the end of August. Now, we're conservative. We are hoping for higher, but I won't know that until the all audit entries are done. So, being conservative, we say 27 million, but I do believe it'll be a little higher than that. So what we're thinking is that by time Jim presents all the projects that they're gonna do with the construction for this next year, that we will be at a anticipated fund balance of $19 million at the end of August, which still leaves us in compliance with our 2.5 months that need to be in reserve. But again, we're being conservative, so I feel like that number will be a little bit higher. And so if y'all have any questions?
You-
What the fund balance is right now, it's probably right around 27 million.
Okay, that's what it is right now.
Yeah, but again, let me explain. When I look at 27 million, I also have to look at what has everybody spent, what's everybody leaving on the table. And we have really good budget stewards who have left money on the table, which is kind of like your savings account, that it helps your fund balance. So that's the reason why I think we're going to be higher than 27 million with our good budget stewards that have been looking at their budgets.
You mentioned compliance 3 months, and then you come back and say 2.5 months.
Oh,
What's
okay.
compliance?
All right. Compliance, there's two different compliance. There's compliance for child nutrition, which has to be 3 months.
3 months.
Okay. Now, there's for us, which is policy that we adopted for our general fund. It's a different fund. And we want to keep a fund balance for 2.5 months.
Okay,
That's two different things, and I should have explained that.
excellent.
Any other question?
Have we ever used that much in our fund balance before? I'm sorry, I can't remember.
No, we have not, but we've never had these types of projects. We've never had the scope that we're going to do for our district. And I think we've been very blessed by keeping our fund balance high so that way we could do these projects.
Yes, I'll speak to that a little bit, just to help everybody kind of recall when we took the bond program to the community for their consideration. It was an $86 million bond program, but we had approximately $100 million worth of scope in the program, and the board considered allocating approximately $15 million over the time period of that bond program out of the general operating fund. So 86 million from taxpayers, 15 million from general operating. So what Ms. Burns is reflecting as anticipated fund balance at the end of this upcoming budget cycle is a fund balance
August 2018.
of around 19 million, which would mean the allocations out of general operating towards the construction program would have been allocated.
Yeah. We did make that conscious decision to spend down some of our fund balance.
Thank you.
You bet. All right, any other questions? If not, we have a recommendation from the superintendent.
Mr. President, I recommend board approval of the 2017-2018 school district budget as presented.
We have a recommendation from the superintendent to accept the budget as presented. Chair will entertain a motion.
So moved.
We have a motion by Mr. Feller. Is there a second?
Second.
We have a second by Ms. Barrientos. Any other questions? Not, all in favor? Aye. All opposed? Motion carries. Item C, discussion and adoption of 2017 tax rate.
Trustees, at this time, we would like to present the proposed budget for your consideration for the upcoming year.
Okay, I am very excited to, if you can be excited about setting a tax rate, but I'm excited about what our tax rate is going to be set at. It's going to be $1.04 for maintenance and operation and .295 for interest and sinking, making our total tax rate $1.335. And the reason I'm excited about this, we all have to pay taxes, but we are the second lowest tax entity in Bexar County. The only one lower than us is Alamo Heights, and I think that's a very good thing for our taxpayers. And we looked at, okay, what the value of a house was last year, and if we had the same value of that house this year, they're only paying $57 more a year in taxes. And for what they're getting with all these projects, that's a bargain.
Anybody have any questions? You good?
Trustees, I recommend board approval of a tax rate levy for 2017 of $1.33.5 per $100 of assessed value per attached order. Said rate to be comprised of $1.04 for maintenance and operations and 29.5 cents for debt service. This year's proposed tax rate does not exceed the effective tax rate.
Thank you. We have a recommendation from the superintendent to adopt the 2017 tax rate. Chair will entertain a motion.
So moved.
We have a motion by Mr. Feller. Is there a second? We have a second by Ms. Brazil. Any questions? Not? All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Motion carries. All opposed? Item D, 2017-2018 employee salary schedule.
Trustees, as we discussed during the budget workshop, salary considerations for employees across the organization. We're ready to propose to you tonight our 2017-2018 employee salary schedule. And at this time, Ms. Burns will point out the things that we are changing in this
Okay.
upcoming program.
We were able to give a $1,000 a year raise for our teachers. All our teachers, librarians, nurses, and academic facilitators and instructional specialists will receive a $1,000 base teacher salary increase. For our administrators and exempt paraprofessional auxiliary employees, they are going to receive a 1.5% of midpoint. And the reason why it's a 1.5% of midpoint is to keep them in line with what the teachers received. And then we gave our paraprofessionals and our auxiliary employees 2% of midpoint for each class of the employee. The bus drivers got $1.50 more per route, and the bus monitors got $1 more per route per day on both of those. And the reason why we did the $1.50 and the $1, it comes to 2% also, so they're all in line with the 2%. And we made a few little changes in the book, but one thing that we did to stay in competition with our fellow school districts is we increased our sub rate. So we increased it to, I believe that we're starting at $90 a day for non-degreed, $100 a day for degreed, and $110 a day for teacher certified, which is probably going to put us at the top in the surrounding areas, so that way we can fill the classrooms and get the subs here. So we're happy to do that for our subs and for our schools. Another thing that I found out today, districts like to share information, and so I got the information today out of about 7 school districts, which is Northside, Northeast, Shirt, Cibolo, New Braunfels, Comal. We're on 0 years, 5 years, 10 years, 15 years. We're number 2 out of all those districts on what we pay our teachers. So we're competitive. We're staying competitive with our teachers. So I was glad to receive that information, to know that we're not lagging behind. We're still staying competitive. And as you go through, there's a lot of pages to clarify what different people get and the different pay grades and the minimum, midpoint, and I'd be glad to answer any questions you might have.
I just have one question. I've been out of the country for a while. On the legislation that happened, what happened on that about the $1,000 from the state? Can somebody give me an update on that?
I think it ended up being much ado about nothing.
Okay, that's about that. So this $1,000 is strictly our.
Yes, sir.
that we get?
Yes, sir.
Okay. well, that's the.
Correct. Yeah,
Thanks a lot.
yeah. Legislature didn't do anything.
They didn't do anything.
Correct. Any other questions on the salary schedule? All right, I believe we're ready.
All right, Mr. President, I recommend board approval of the 2017-2018 employee salary schedule as presented.
I have a recommendation from the superintendent to accept the salary schedule as presented. We have a motion by Mr. Mulkey to accept the superintendent's recommendation. We have a second by Mr. Feller. Any other questions, comments? Not, all in favor? Aye. All opposed? Motion carries.
Thank y'all.
Thank you, ma'am. All right, item E, approval of telemedicine benefit.
Trustees, I know that you recall the telemedicine service that we had been considering for our employees who are TRS eligible employees across the organization. And so we're ready to bring to you tonight our recommendation for consideration of Healthiest You as our service provider, which is powered by Teladoc, which is very exciting to us because we have had Teladoc as a program for TRS employees who take TRS, particular plans of TRS. So they're familiar with this, but now every employee will be able to take advantage of this at no cost to them. The initial contract price for a 2-year term is a rate guarantee of $5 per employee per month. Projected 1,350 employees eligible, TRS eligible and eligible for this service, at a budget of approximately $81,000. And so we're ready to bring that to you tonight for consideration. We'd be happy to answer any questions before making a recommendation.
Anyone have any questions about telemedicine? Ms. Brazil has goosebumps. I think we're ready, sir.
All right. So trustees, I recommend board approval of the telemedicine benefit as presented.
We have a recommendation from the superintendent to approve the telemedicine contract as presented to the board. Chair will entertain a motion. We have a motion by Ms. Brazil. Is there a second? We have a second by Mr. Feller. Any questions, comments? If not, all in favor? Aye. All opposed? Motion carries. All right, item F, grants from the United States Tennis Association.
So, Mr. President, trustees, we have back-to-back agenda items, one of which is a grant award for consideration from the United States Tennis Association, followed by the next agenda item, which is very similar. However, it's a grant award for your consideration from the United States Tennis Association, Texas. Per board policy, CDC local to receive a gift in the form of even a grant. If it's in the amount of $5,000 or greater, the board must approve. And so the USTA grant that you're looking at is a potential award of $8,000 for resurfacing of the tennis court at Heritage, as well as a $10,000 grant to resurface the tennis court at Legacy Middle School. Before we take action on this particular item, I'll say that the USTA Texas grant is also for these same two projects, so some additional award amounts, as well as the tennis program has raised some funds in the last year to contribute $20,000 towards this same tennis court improvement program. So this would include resurfacing of the courts, restriping, crack filling, et cetera. And the intent of the USTA is to support ongoing wellness-related activities and support the advancement of our tennis programs across the district. The requirement is that we have a way for the public to have access to our tennis courts for those purposes, and we do. The board put a lot of effort in recent years to have a procedure for the public to request the use of our facilities, and we even categorize requesting groups into community groups or non-community groups, and we would consider if the board were to accept these grants, that any affiliated group with the USTA or USTA Texas to be a community group, meaning that they could have access to our facilities free of charge, provided that there were no scheduling conflicts, et cetera, and that they requested the use of the facilities through our procedures we have in place. And that meets the requirement from the USTA and the USTA Texas, just that we have a procedure in place for them to be able, or for the public to be able to have access to our facilities. I'll also make you aware that the reason that this grant opportunity came forward was that both these organizations approached our head coach of our tennis program because he has been affiliated with the USTA. And in recent years, we've had community volunteers who are affiliated with the USTA who have done clinics, camps, and after-school, after-hour activities, tennis-related activities, free of charge to children of all ages in our community. And it's been a real big hit at the high school tennis courts. And so this would be an opportunity for us to expand that programming to other courts if appropriate. Again, per our procedures for facility use. So again, this particular grant that you're considering is from the USTA, and it's $8,000 for Heritage Middle School and $10,000 for Legacy Middle School. And I'd be happy to answer any further questions about this particular grant at this time.
Are the courts in that bad a shape that they need to be resurfaced, or is it just going to be resurfaced with this money? I mean, that to be able to accept it, we need to resurface them
Yes, sir.
and then make it available to the public.
Yes, sir. So really good question. So as part of this, we did have a company called Cortex evaluate both of our courts and made some recommendations for the resurfacing of both of those. Both of them aren't equally in the same need, but both of them are in need of some crack filling and some resurfacing and restriping, some reconditioning, if you will. Our intention, should the board approve to accept this grant as well as the USTA Texas, is to exercise due diligence, as we always do, and seek 2 additional quotes for that particular scope of work. Now, the scope of work, at least preliminarily, seems to be in the neighborhood of $48,000 combined for the resurfacing of both courts, which is 8 courts, I believe, at both facilities.
Thank you.
Sir.
Any other questions? All right. If not, I believe we're ready for your recommendation.
Okay. Trustees, I recommend board approval of grants from the United States Tennis Association for $8,000 to resurface the tennis courts at Heritage and $10,000 to resurface the tennis courts at Legacy.
Have a recommendation from the superintendent to accept the grant from the United States Tennis Association. Chair will entertain a motion.
So moved.
Have a motion by Mr. Feller. Is there a second? Have a second by Ms. Brazil. Any other questions or comments? Not, all in favor?
Aye.
All opposed? Motion carries. So item G, grants from the United States Tennis Association, Texas.
So the second part of this is, again, a grant award for your consideration from the USTA Texas chapter. And this would be for $4,000 to resurface the courts at Heritage and $5,000 to resurface the courts at Legacy. An item that I'd like to point out is the award letter looks a little different from the USTA Texas as when compared to the USTA. It seemed to be that the USTA Texas had some more specific criteria. Specifically, for example, that lines other than the 10 and under blended lines are prohibited. I didn't know what that was when asked. We don't have any lines other than 10 and under that meet that criteria. But we were also concerned that it seemed like the USTA Texas was a little more prohibitive, that they had more requirements to receive their grant funding. And when we checked with the representative, Ms. Trobow, I believe is how you say her name, it's the person who sent the award letter, their intention is to follow the USTA's intent as well as requirements, which, as I presented previously, are that they want to support lifetime wellness activities. They want to enrich our tennis program and help us to grow our program. And all that they ask is that we have provisions for the public to have access to our facilities, and we presented our procedures that we have in place, and that more than meets those requirements. So all in all, it doesn't require the district to do anything that we haven't already been doing with regard to giving access to the public to our tennis facilities. And so we have an email to support that, and of course, before we move forward, we would ensure, again, that the intention is to match the requirements of the United States Tennis Association with the Texas version. So I'd be happy to answer any additional questions you might have about the Texas version.
Well, on that, it says the 10 and under, I'm not that big on tennis, but 10 and under blended lines, I mean, what does that entail?
So I think it's a different size of court, correct? And our courts are regulation for, I don't know what the governing body is, but UIL. And so all our courts at the high school, Heritage and Legacy, are striped exactly the same. And they're not the smaller 10 and under courts, which the USTA and USTA Texas are saying, we don't want you to do the smaller courts. We want you to use the UIL regulated court pattern, which is what they are. So they're not prohibiting us to do anything because our courts match what they're expecting. So if that makes sense. Did that answer your question?
That's it.
Yes, sir.
Also, you have to make these tennis courts accessible to the public. So the public's gonna, the school's gonna have priority
Yes.
before, so when do they open up to the public? Maybe I should ask you that.
So neither one of these organizations require a particular set of hours after school, weekends, or a particular number, just that they're available. So our procedures that we have in place to request our facilities require them to request it, and then we look at calendars. We run athletic facilities through the athletic programs, and if there's any conflict with our school-related programs, they don't have access. If there's not a conflict, then we look at the group. In this particular case, if it's affiliated with the USTA or USTA Texas, we would consider it like a community group because it's our children in our community that would benefit. And then with the athletic program saying we're all clear, calendar's clear, then we would make those provisions, which might also include restroom access or lights if appropriate. But we follow our procedures in that case. So definitely this wouldn't supersede any of our school-related athletic programming or anything of that sort. So if there were any conflicts, that would take priority.
Both our courts and Legacy and Heritage have lights.
I do not believe either of them have lights. The only ones that have lights are high school.
Only one.
Yes, sir.
Okay. Yeah, I was, you know, those groups that come in and try to take over.
Yes, sir.
Which I have experienced before being in education.
Yes, sir.
We would look at the football field and they would bring the little kids and try to run the teams off the field, but I don't hope we had any problem.
Yes, sir. But we don't definitely have a better procedure at this point. The board put some effort into that in the last couple of years, and we feel like it's working for us really well. Ms. Cavazos, if I'm speaking out of turn, let me know, but I think the procedures we have in place now have been really working well for it. Okay. Thank you.
And they sign a liability waiver, correct? Okay.
There's some insurance requirements and that sort of thing that come with approval. Okay. Anything else?
All right. Any other questions?
All right, trustees, I recommend board approval of grants from the United States Tennis Association, Texas, for $4,000 to resurface the tennis courts at Heritage Middle School and $5,000 to resurface the tennis courts at Legacy Middle School.
We have a recommendation from the superintendent to accept the grant from the United States Tennis Association, Texas. Chair will entertain a motion. We have a motion by Ms.
Second.
Barrientos. We have a second by Mr. Feller. Any other questions or comments? Not, all in favor?
Aye.
All opposed? Motion carries. Item H, discussion and possible action of construction manager at risk, amendment number 2, Salado Elementary School, Sinclair Elementary School, Pecan Valley Elementary School, Harmony Elementary School additions and renovations.
Trustees, at this time, Mr. Selby will present GMP 2 for your consideration.
Yes, Mr. Toscano, board members, as the agenda item indicates, we're going to present to you this evening the guaranteed maximum price number 2 from Joris General Contractors. We have the elite team here from Joris. You have Justin Bendelay, Wes Ryan, and Zach Pacchioni. Right? Yeah, pretty good. They're here, and also we're honored to have Carlos Constantino from LPA. They're all here to correct any incorrect information I give you or to answer questions I can't answer. Hopefully there aren't very many of those. As you may recall, we went through a construction manager at risk delivery method for the additions and renovations portion of the bond program. And what that allows us to do is hire a construction manager at risk, which the board approved Joris to do that work. And part of their job is to take the bid documents and specifications and submit those to the marketplace for pricing, bring those prices in, and using that in consultation with our design consultants at LPA, as well as staff here at the district, they put together a guaranteed maximum price, which we are now presenting to you tonight for your consideration. What that means is that if you accept this, Joris will be responsible for delivering all of the work that's in that GMP2 at no more than the cost that's presented to you this evening. If for some reason the cost of that project goes over that amount, that's the at-risk part they have, they don't get to charge more. If it comes in under that amount, then we get the money. Well, they never do get the money, but that amount of money is reduced from the contract. And so, for example, in GMP1, which is a very small portion of that area of the bond, it was just over a little bit over 1.7 million. We're completing that part of the project. In fact, the vast majority of it's already done. Within the next month to 2 months, we'll close out that project, and they will return, at least on paper, the savings that we have on that project, because it did not go all the way to the full amount. And that's the advantage of that program. The other advantage is that with this type, what we're asking them to do is actually 4 separate projects, and each one is going to be, would have been possible to bid that out separately, but what we've ended up doing is bundling those together. And by bundling those together, we believe that we got, 1, a better quality contractor to help us with that project, and 2, better subcontractors. And I'm gonna guarantee you we got better pricing, but we did get, I think, better contractors out of it. But we do, what we are presenting to you this evening is found in the information that was in hard copy given to you, I believe, in your packet. And it says on the top, Joris General Contractors, eCentral ISD additions and renovations, guaranteed maximum price, to proposal August 31, 2017. Does everybody have that? And this is only 6 pages out of, I believe, 41 or 42 pages. I saved you and only gave you 6 pages. If you would look on page 3 of that packet, it has the beginning of all the pricing breakdown of the various types of areas that they're going to be providing services for, with the totals by each campus on page 5. What we're proposing to you is a base bid, to accept the base bid proposal plus 2 of the alternates that were submitted for consideration. That total GMP will total $49,754,627. What this will do is provide for the additions at each of those schools, at Harmony Elementary School, Pecan Valley Elementary School, Sinclair Elementary School, and Salado Intermediate. We'll also provide for extensive renovations to each of those facilities. Each of those facilities will be brought up to current code standards, as well as being designed based on the concepts that went into the new elementary school. So certainly they aren't going to be the same exact school as traditional elementary, because they're all different facilities. But what they'll have is the same type of facilities available to each of our students. So for example, they'll have classrooms that are of at least the standard size recommended by TEA. They're all going to have common collaborative areas. like we will at the new elementary school. Each one of those schools will now have common collaborative areas. They're going to have improved and much more efficient administration areas where they were needed, such as at Harmony, less so at Pecan Valley, but also at Sinclair in particular. All of those open classroom concepts at Sinclair and Pecan Valley will go away, and we'll now have the traditional classrooms designed built in, with hallways that meet current code and standard, with all the ADA compliance issues addressed, and with all the code compliance issues for fire being addressed. So for example, at Harmony, in all of these schools, you're now going to have sprinkler system, fire sprinkler systems that we didn't have. And that's going to bring it up to the current code, and will also provide a much safer environment for our students and staff. And also will protect property better than what we have now. One of the things that we were concerned with when putting this together was going over budget. That's always a concern. You want to provide what we want and need for our students, but also it has to be within budget. So on page 6, you'll see some alternates that we put in there. And some of those are add alternates and some of them are deductive alternates. If they're add, it means that they weren't in the base bid, and if we accept those, that's an additional cost. And so we are recommending add alternate 1A, which what that does is bring Harmony up to the same standards as all the other campuses. When we were reviewing Harmony, what we realized was it already had traditional classrooms. It didn't have the open classrooms like at Sinclair and Pecan Valley that needed to be totally redone. But what we also began to realize as we got into it, the students and the staff at Harmony wanted the same opportunities for educational facilities as they did at every other campus. So as a result of that, it was going to cost more than what we initially projected the cost to be. Because now, if you accept this proposal, they also will have collaborative areas. Their ceilings and all of their floors will also be of a newer standard and bring similar to all what the other campuses will have. We also had to, there were some additional costs at Harmony as well as some of the other campuses, but especially Harmony because of the code compliance for fire. We had to put in a sprinkler system there that we didn't anticipate. So as a result of that, we're asking you to consider spending a little bit more, and it will be within the general budget that we had talked about during the bond presentations. We'll spend the $87.1 million, which we already planned to do. But we also, if you recall, had planned to spend over, in addition to that, out of fund balance. And so as a result of that, we will go into fund balance. We'll spend, with this project, along with all the other projects that we're doing, we'll be spending a little bit over $100 million, which is what we had planned to do. And so we'll spend a little bit more out of fund balance than we had anticipated, but we also have some savings out of the bond that we didn't anticipate because of the way the pricing came in. So it's going to balance out, and we'll stay within that roughly $100 million budget. Makes any sense at all. But right now, we're really just focusing on GMP2. I just wanted you to be aware, if you accept this, we aren't breaking the bank. So if you accept what's being presented to you this evening, what you will get is all that we promised the community in the bond presentations, plus some enhancements that we didn't count on. We're going to have much better libraries and administrative facilities than we had before at each one of these campuses. We're going to have current classroom standards that you would have at any brand new school. You'll have collaborative areas that we don't have now that are going to be able to be used now and in the future for a variety of different types of things that will be very flexible in their nature. You'll have schools that are in ADA compliance. You'll have schools that are meeting the current fire code, and we believe that it will be a great value to the people of this district. So we are recommending, once again, the guaranteed maximum price of $49,754,627. And I will be glad to answer any questions you may have.
These alternates that we're deducting,
Okay, I should have pointed it out. We are not deducting those. Yes, and that's why Mr. Toscano warned me I needed to make sure that that was clear, and I didn't do what I was told.
thank you.
The deducts would mean we would take it out of the base bid, and we're not asking you to take anything out of the base bid. We're leaving all of that in because we can afford it and it's needed.
Right, I was gonna ask that, because I
Yes.
saw roof replacement, so that was a little concerning.
Yes, no, we aren't going to take those out. So if you go back to that page 5 and you look at the bottom lines there, there's 3 numbers on the right-hand column, the bottom column, or bottom of that right column. You have the guaranteed maximum price subtotal, which is your base bid of $45,499,264. We're asking you to go ahead and add in alternate 1A and and alternate 3. And that's what that means is that 1A is the Harmony School, bringing it up to the same standard as every other school. It was hard for us to do all that work at Pecan Valley and Salado and Sinclair, but then not do the same standard of facility improvements at Harmony. And as a result, that's why we're recommending that. Alternate 3 is the cost for replacing the canopy in the very front area of Salado, because it leaks really bad when it rains and it needs to be replaced. And it costs more. It would probably cost, well, we've repaired it multiple times and it does better, but it still does not solve the problem of water dripping all over the kids and staff, and also even getting into buildings at times. So it's really needed. The only reason we did these alternates was if we went way over budget, we were going to give ourselves some options to reduce the cost. And we're not asking you to consider any deductions at this time. I should have listened to Mr. Toscano and explained it better. He'll remind me of that later.
Any other questions?
The only thing, on some of these items throughout the year, how will it impact education? I mean, how will it, like installing a fire sprinkler system?
Well, it doesn't, the way it impacts it is that if there is a fire somewhere, the sprinkler system goes off and you lose a very small area of the school instead
No,
of the
I
whole
understand
school.
that, but I'm just saying, how will it affect education,
During the
installation,
construction coordination.
during the
Oh, I'm
construction of
sorry, I
it?
misunderstood the
How
question.
will they,
Well, that's a very good question. We're going to have to do it in phases. So, for
Okay.
example, we'll do the new additions first. By doing the new additions, that'll allow us to then move a block of students out of a defined area
That'll work.
into that area.
Yeah.
We'll wall that off, we meaning they will wall that off. I'm not going to do anything.
yeah, that answers it.
You don't
I
want to
mean,
see the
that's-
wall I would build. That's why we have these folks. But,
Portables is one.
but-
Okay,
And so each one of those campuses is going to have somewhere between at least 3 to 4 phases after the after the addition is completed. You also have some portables that we already had for example, at Sinclair and Salado. We're going to utilize those. And we may even need to add, just lease 1 or 2 portables at each one of those campuses to help us in the interim. But
Okay.
that was a very good question.
Okay.
Yes, I just misunderstood.
that was just,
We're good with the colloquial "we," Jim. It's okay.
Yeah, it's all right.
All right. Any other questions? All right, Mr. Toscano, please.
All right, trustees, I recommend board approval of GMP 2 proposed by Joris General Contractors in the amount of $49,754,627.
A recommendation by the superintendent to adopt to adopt our at-risk amendment number 2 for our elementary school renovations. We have a motion by Ms. Barrientos. Is there a second?
second.
We have a second by Mr. Feller. All in favor? Aye. All opposed? Motion carries. Thank you. All right. We do apologize for putting y'all through that lengthy meeting this evening. Our original design for this meeting was a single agenda item, but it seems like there was other business to do. So, at this point in time, the board's going to go into an executive session. Board of Trustees on August the 31st, 2017, beginning at 6:21 p.m., convened in a closed meeting in accordance with Texas Open Meeting Act, Government Code Sections 551.071, consultation with attorney, and 551.074, personnel matters. Thank you.
Is it on? I don't see a red light.
All right. The board ended its closed meeting at 6:48 p.m. on August 31st, 2017. No action was taken in the closed meeting. All right, consideration and possible action concerning pending litigation and possible settlement of student v. East Central Independent School District before a special education hearing officer for the state of Texas, docket number 221-SE-0517.
I move to accept the recommendation of the superintendent and the school's attorney and direct the superintendent and the school's attorney to proceed as discussed in closed session concerning student versus East Central Independent School District before a special education hearing officer for the state of Texas, docket number 221-SE-0517.
Thank you. We have a motion from Ms. Brazil on this item. Is there a second?
Second.
We have a second by Mr. Massengale. Any questions, any comments? If not, all in favor?
Aye.
All opposed? Motion carries. Before we adjourn, Mr. Toscano, do you have anything else for us, sir?
No, sir.
All right. In that case, Chair will entertain a motion to adjourn.
So moved.
We have a motion by Mr. Feller. Is there a second? We have a second by Ms. Barrientos. We are adjourned via unanimous consent. Thank you, everyone.